Hi, my name is Bernie Kocha. I'm president of Science Branding Communication, and it's my pleasure to demonstrate a unique sourcing tool we developed called MedStory SourceBook. This is one we did for Inotech Pharmaceuticals for an investigational drug called trabedenicin, which is being studied in open-angle glaucoma and ocular hypertension. So I am in Adobe, and this is an interactive PDF. So like any other PDF, you can toggle through the toolbar and advance to the next page. And in this case, page 2 of our document shows the 7 story elements or components that we've included in this MedStory sourcebook, starting with the core story concept, which is the big take-home idea. The move on to the story flow map, which is a visual outline of the story's dramatic flow. We then provide text narratives in 3 lengths: concise, intermediate, and full length. And that's what these 3 circles represent. This is the story if you were to simply read it or have it be told to you in words only. We then move to the crown jewel of the source book, and that's the slide decks that are also in concise, intermediate, and full length versions. We then take those important terms and phrases and provide a lexicon glossary in number 5. Number 6, we take all those key visuals, and in this case, an animated 3D animation video, and we embedded it into this source book to provide a ready source for all the visuals and video that are being used on this story. And then finally, the reference library, which contains all the proof sources, all the PDFs of the important articles that we used to create the story. So advancing to the next section, this is our developmental process for the source book. We felt it was important to have the end users see the rigor in which this particular tool was developed through a 6-phase process, starting with a science investigation, moving on to the stakeholder interviews, both internal as well as external interviews were conducted. We then vetted a core story concept, the big take-home idea that was ultimately chosen by the team. We then have the lexicon work and the words and the messaging. The story visualization was brought in, all culminating in the text narratives, the slide decks, and how is within this interactive PDF sourcebook that I'm showing you now. Moving on to the next section is the table of contents, and this is where the interactivity begins. You can see when I scroll over the content headings, my mouse lights up. So let me actually go right to the end, click on the reference library, and that brings us to all the important publications that led up to the development of the content. And you can see them, they're all listed here, and if I advance through this arrow button in the back here, it brings you to the entire list of references. So let me just take one for example. Let me pull DeGruff, and to the left you can see these little download buttons, and when I click on it, up comes the actual article itself with the section highlighted in which the information was drawn. So we do that in every case here. So I'm going to go back to this button on the lower left, hit the table of contents, and why don't we just start at the very top with the core story concept. And as I said before, it's the take-home big idea around the story. And in this particular case, we split it between a concise 74 words statement as well as a full 178 word statement that is split between the story tension as well as the story resolution components of the big idea. So we reprised it within this interactive PDF. And you can see here that if I click on this download button, it asks me to launch the file, and up comes the Word document in which is traveling along with the interactive PDF. And this makes it easier for your end users to copy, paste, and draw from the content. So I'm going to go back to the PDF and advance to the next section, which is the story flow map, and it's the visual outline of the story's dramatic flow. Now, I don't expect you to be able to read these topic headings here, but if I click the download button, up will launch the original Adobe document that we created, and like in any PDF, you can use the zoom button to get to a larger format, and the reader would then be able to read the flow of this story going from left to right and the rising and falling tension arc of the story itself. The red text represents those tension points. The black text represents the resolution, and it moves from left to right, ultimately culminating in the big idea or the core story concept. So I'm going to close out of that, go back to the interactive PDF, and advance to the text narratives. So these are in concise, intermediate, and full-length versions. We provide the minutes and the total word numbers down below, so your readers know what they're getting into as far as what the length is of each of these versions. And it's reprised here for the reader. They can stay within this PDF and actually read the text narratives and actually have the references provided as well. If you were to go to the download button and click that, up launches the Word version of this particular document, and then somebody can easily take it and draw from it, copy and paste it for press releases for their annual reports, and you can see the utilization of this tool amongst many departments within your organization. So I'm going to go back to the interactive PDF, and I'm going to keep moving forward to section number 4, which is the section that contains the slide decks themselves. And these are provided in concise, intermediate, and full-length versions, 13, 18, and 25 slides respectively. And this provides the end user with a quick thumbnail view of which slides are contained in each of the 3 versions, and they can keep toggling and advancing through the concise, through the intermediate, which is obviously provides a little bit more detail, culminating in the full-length version, which is the full story that consists of the entire slide deck. If one were to go to the download button, up would launch PowerPoint, and then the actual PowerPoint document is provided here, and your end users can draw from the document accordingly. So if I were to click, for example, on slide 8, just to show you that all of our slides are rigorously developed, and we provide speaker notes and references for each particular slide. So this is one in which we did for this particular. Let me just go to slide 10. That's a slide that builds. I can go to your users can go to slideshow and actually advance through the slide. This one has a lot of information on it, and every time we create a slide like this, we try to break it up and animate it so that it's easy for the user to present. And of course, like all of our slides, we have the speaker notes here and the references that people can draw from. So going back to the source book and moving forward through the next section, we then come to the lexicon glossary, which is the story's key terms and phrases defined here. And I could also get to a Word version if I were to download, click on that download button. I'm now moving into a section that our clients find incredibly useful to ensure continuity and consistency of visuals, the visuals library. And this provides all the native art of the images, graphs, charts that were used to develop the slides themselves. You may recall I came to a slide, this particular slide. If I were to click on this download button, up would come the Illustrator file that your other vendor partners would be able to draw from and be able to manipulate in order to create 2D versions in print and in other formats. So I'm going to advance through all of this section, and then that brings me to the video that we also created for this client. This was a 3D animation video, a story version of the full-length slides. And what we provide the end user is the ability to play the video right within the body of the PDF. So I'm going to let this run for a little while.
Chronically elevated intraocular pressure, or IOP, is a major risk factor for primary open-angle glaucoma, or POAG. In fact, the risk of developing POAG increases 10% for every 1 millimeter mercury rise in IOP. The eye is also subjected to repeated acute pressure elevations on a daily basis. Normal ocular physiology uses finely focused mechanisms that help prevent both acute and chronic elevations of IOP. IOP is determined by both aqueous humor inflow and outflow. Outflow occurs through two pathways, the conventional trabecular pathway and the unconventional uveoscleral pathway. However, IOP is regulated only by pressure-sensitive tissue in the trabecular meshwork, or TM. When cells within the TM are mechanically stretched by an increased IOP, they release ATP, which is converted to adenosine. Adenosine then activates the adenosine A1 receptor, which increases expression, secretion, and activation of matrix metalloproteinase type 2, or MMP2.
Okay, so then you get the idea, and if you were to click on this download button here and launch the actual file, you can see if the actual video can come up full screen, and I'm not going to play this because we just shared it with you, obviously. So that brings us pretty much to where we started, and that is the reference library itself. So thank you very much for your time and attention in viewing this demonstration. We look forward to answering any questions that you may have.